Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. If you need captioning, closed captioning, please use the Zoom feature at the bottom of the screen. Um, we appreciate everyone joining us. We have a great attendance here for the first ArtPride New Jersey member webinar of 2025, and we have a ton of great content for you today. My name is Adam Pearl. I'm president and CEO of ArtPride New Jersey. So glad to see so many familiar faces as well as new names with us today. Really excited that you are here with us. Um, uh, I will additionally introduce myself by saying that I am a white man in my mid-40s with short brown hair and brown eyes. Today I'm wearing a blue button-down shirt, and there's kind of a grayish beigeish wall behind me. I'm coming to you from my home office in Bridgewater, New Jersey, the land of the Lenni Lenape. So appreciate you all being here, as I've been saying. I want to also add that please feel free to use the questions and answers feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen or the top, however you have it configured, but within the Zoom. We want you to use that Q&A over the course of the webinar. We know we're going to give you a lot of information. We're going to do our best to answer as many questions as we can. We also want you to keep an eye on the chat. We will post some things in there, some links and other information along the way. And I know we'll be using some polls as well, some interactive polls. So we hope you'll participate as we go through today's webinar. And then in addition, because we know we are giving you a lot of information and because we know not everyone can attend at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, we are recording this webinar and we will post it to our Pride's YouTube page at some point in the very near future, as soon as the staff is able to do so. So that's good to know as well. And glad to see so many people saying hello and good morning in the chat today. So speaking of today, if we could go to the next slide. So our meeting agenda for today. So we're going to bring on one of the folks that we work with to talk about the New Jersey State budget. Then we're going to bring on some other folks from the federal level to give some updates about what's going on at the federal level, as well as you're going to hear from our advocacy team about upcoming action alerts, New Jersey Arts Advocacy Day, and essentially what's to come around advocacy, particularly in these next 6 months, but really throughout 2025. So with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, Samantha Bender, who is an associate at Public Strategies Impact. PSI is the firm that ArtPride New Jersey has worked with for almost 3 decades now in terms of government relations consultant. And we're very lucky to have Sam as part of that PSI team. And I'm going to hand it over to Sam for her presentation about what to expect with the FY26 state budget.
Hey everyone, so excited to be here. Like Adam said, my name's Sam Bender. I am a young female in my late 20s with medium long brown hair, brown eyes. I have a cream sweater. I have a blurred background. You can kind of see my bookshelf, and I'm in my office in Trenton, New Jersey. Excited to be here with you today. I'm first going to kind of touch on just a quick budget overview, kind of how it works, where we're at. So yesterday the governor presented his State of the State. He mentioned a few things about budget, nothing really concrete, really about wanting to have paying our bills, having a good credit rating, etc. But right now, the biggest thing is he is currently working on his proposed budget, and that kind of takes place from beginning of December until end of February. So with that, his budget address will be at the end of February, maybe beginning of March, and then the full budget is going to be released in March. And again, this is his proposed budget. This is him telling the legislature, these are my priorities. This is what I want to see happen. And then so March and April, the legislature is going to go on a budget break, meaning that the Senate and Assembly budget committees will have their testimony with all of the cabinet heads about the state of the budget in New Jersey. So, we'll kind of be tuning in, watching that, seeing what everyone's saying. And then May, June, and July, the legislature comes back, and that's when they start working on their budget. So governor proposes their budget. They take some of his proposals into consideration, and then they will write their budget, which usually is presented about end of June. Budget needs to be signed by July 1st or the state will shut down. Other states have continuing resolutions. We do not. So if it's not passed by July 1st, then everything will shut down. I think the last time that happened was under the Christie administration. The big thing that I want to flag is twofold. The messaging last year was it was a really tight budget year, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the messaging again this year is that it is also again a really tight budget year. We had an influx of ARPA and federal funds with the COVID relief dollars, and that's kind of come to an end. So I think New Jersey and a lot of other states are kind of trying to figure out, make the difference. We were spending a lot, and now we kind of don't have that influx of money. So the budget's going to be really tight this year, and that's something we've been telling all clients in all different issue areas. And then the second thing is this is going to be the governor's final budget. We're almost at year 8, which is crazy. It went very fast. The thing to kind of note here is that Governor Murphy was a very pro-arts governor. So with that, we don't know what's going to happen next. The primary fields are really, really, really large, with like 10 candidates altogether. So I think right now, just kind of tapping in, watching the primary campaigns and just seeing what people are saying, seeing what the candidates are carving out when it comes to the arts. So now I kind of want to loop back to lessons that we learned from the FY25 budget. Like I said, it was really financially a tight budget. And I think since the budget was tight, legislative leadership and the Gov's office were looking for funds to utilize, and ArtPride was very involved in this last year, but basically it was, last 2 weeks of June, and the legislature released a bill that would get rid of the poison pill statute that basically just says like minimum of 40% of the hotel motel occupancy tax has to go towards a dedicated arts and tourism funding. So they're trying to kind of get rid of that to have like a little bit of extra funds to use. We flagged it right away. Matt Halpin, who you guys might know on our team, has been around for a while and knew immediately it was an issue. ArtPride jumped right in, Vanessa, Vince, Adam, really, got the alert out, let everyone know. And I think, Matt and I's advocacy mixed with the advocacy of ArtPride and everyone in the organization really helped. And so at the end, like we were able to lobby the governor, senior staff, and some in legislative leadership to conditionally veto the bill to get rid of saying that there didn't have to be a minimum. So we made sure that the minimum was put back in. And that's a big lesson to be learned, with this, again, being a tight budget year. The lesson learned is we really should remain vigilant and expect anything can happen at the end of June, which is true for really any client in any issue area. Things happen really fast and quick, and you have to kind of have your ear to the ground and just be prepared for anything. So kind of talking about how ArtPride was really influential with their advocacy, that I want to kind of talk about ways to make advocacy more influential. Process-wise, kind of like I said with the governor's budget, from late or early December to mid-February is when you're going to focus on the governor. They're doing their budget. You want to kind of make sure you're hitting the right boxes, talking with the right people. And that's the most effective time for the governor's office. And then from March to June, you're going to focus on legislature. So process-wise, that's kind of how that shakes out. But on a more just like a more personal note about talking with legislators, in the last election in 2023, we had about 25% new members. I think it was like 30 plus new members. That's not usual. Usually members are around for a while. So with, all these new members, it creates an opportunity to engage with new members because they don't know what their issue areas are. They know I care about X, Y, and Z, and I'm a new member and I'm trying to figure out what works. So with that, you can kind of, and Vanessa and Vince do a great job at this, kind of find members that either haven't been involved in the arts, their kids, do school play or, like art or do music, like play musical instrument, and then kind of from there connect with them and talk about what your organization and what you bring to the community. And then I think another layer to that is legislators care a lot about what their constituents care about. I mean, at the end of the day, you are the people that they're asking, please elect me again. So if your organization is based in, Camden, then your legislator is Nilsa Cruz Perez, Bill Mellon, and Bill Spearman. And you can kind of connect with them and say, hey, I have this arts organization in Camden, and this is what we do for the residents, and kind of building that really personal, authentic connection, I think makes advocacy more influential, because they want to hear about what you're doing in their community, and you know, how you guys can kind of work together and you know, make the community a better place. So that's kind of my quick overview of budget, what happened last year, and just, you know, ways to make advocacy more influential. So I'll open the floor to any questions.
Hey, Sam. So I was actually typing this while you were while you were finishing up. So that's what prevented me from doing both things at the same time. I was going to say to folks, if anybody has questions for Sam about the budget process or what to expect in the upcoming gubernatorial primaries and general election, please post them now in the question and answers. If you think of them along the way, I know Sam's sticking around. We can always come back to them a little later on. But I know one of the questions that I wanted to ask about, Sam, was, so from my understanding is that more than ever, decisions around the budget process, the budget itself, are being made at the highest levels of leadership. Um, so, you know, we're talking about the governor's office, but we're also talking about the leadership in both the Senate and the Assembly. And can you share with with folks here? I mean, A, who those folks are. Let's not assume that everybody knows who those folks are, but who they are. But in addition, maybe touch on that, because of how influential, like you were talking about, those relationships were, but how influential those relationships can be with these specific individuals who are wielding, frankly, just the most power right now when it comes
Yeah.
to budgets.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously we elect the governor, we elect our legislators, and kind of the main players is the governor, the Senate president who oversees the Senate, and Speaker of the General Assembly who oversees the Assembly. But a lot of the times too, it kind of falls to their senior staff to kind of, you know, have a lot of the conversations, then bring it up to the level of the governor and legislative leadership. And we also have budget chairs too. So kind of the players are obviously governor, Senate President Skatar, who's based in Union, Speaker Coughlin, who's based in Middlesex. And then for budget chairs, you have Chairman or Senator Sarlo, who's based in Bergen. And then you have Assemblywoman Pinto-Moran, who's based in Newark. And so for their staffers that, you know, play a really key role, the governor's chief of staff is Tim Hillman. He was my former boss. He was you know, a long-standing staffer for the governor, and I think within the past year became his chief of staff. And then you also have Kate McDonald, who is now the new chief counsel. Paramel, who was chief counsel for a long time, has stepped down. Kate, again, worked for the governor for a long time, has been, you know, a state employee for a long time, and has stepped up. And then you have Dennis Zeveloff, a little bit of a hard name to pronounce, who's the chief policy advisor to the governor. So I'd say those three really are advising the governor and helping him kind of make his vision come true. And then for the Senate president, you have Tim Lydon, who's the executive director of the Senate Democratic Office, and then Jess Cohen, who is Senate president's chief of staff. And then in the Assembly, you have Seth Hahn, who is the Assembly Democratic Executive Director. And then you have Dan Harris, who is Speaker Coughlin's chief of staff. So I'd say those are really the main players there. And if any of you, you know, have connections with them, I'm happy to help, you know, talk with you about leveraging those connections and talking with them and building that, you know, authentic connection and having, you know, successful advocacy there.
Yeah, it's funny, as you mentioned the locations of some of those legislators, and I'm looking at the panelist list, and we have folks, I don't know if exact those districts, but definitely from those areas. Um, for sure. So we have two questions before we go on to talk about the what's going on at the federal level. One is from one of our board members, Anita Thomas. Hi, Anita. So Anita's asking, for the governor's election race, will ArtPride ask all of the candidates questions about their support for the arts? I'll take this one, Sam. So the answer here is yes. Of course, we will absolutely ask candidates questions about their support for the arts. And to Sam's point right now, the field for the governor's race is extremely wide right now. The expectation is that field will narrow down significantly, particularly over the next 60 to 90 days, 2 to 3 months. And so there is a little bit of, from our capacity, sort of waiting it out, and seeing where that field starts to narrow down. But as it narrows down, as we get closer to the primary season, we will absolutely be in touch with every single campaign. This is something that ArtPride New Jersey does each and every time there's a governor's election. And certainly as we get towards the general election, we'll be looking at campaign staffs and donors to see where we have our friends on both sides of the aisle to start making those inroads to the next governor. Of course, ArtPride is completely bipartisan. We do not endorse candidates, but we do have the candidate survey on our website. So both for the governor's election as well as state level and federal level, we do have that candidate survey. We will be continuing to employ that each and every election season, and we'll make sure we share that with folks as well. And then Joanne from South Jersey Cultural Alliance. Hi, Joanne. Asked, can someone repeat those budget deadlines mentioned at the beginning of the webinar? She just missed the audio.
Yeah. So the quick overview is December to late March, governor's working on his proposed budget and then doing his budget address in late February. Late or early December to late February. That's when the governor's working on his budget. And then from March to July 1, the legislature kind of takes over and drafts the final version of the budget.
And it's all got to get wrapped up by July 1st.
Where we shut down and our July 4th weekend is ruined. So, but, Vince, Vanessa, Adam have my contact. If you guys need anything, you can always feel free to reach out. Happy to help. And I appreciate you guys having me here today.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, for everything you've done today and for all that you and the team at PSI do all year long for us. And we'll continue to work on this, as you said, particularly over the next few months. So we're going to shift gears here to our next agenda item. And it gives me pleasure to introduce another member of the ArtPride New Jersey team, Vince Hall, who is our Director of Advocacy Operations. We're going to welcome Vince to take over for our next section.
Good morning, everyone. Again, yes, my name is Vince Hall. I'm the Director of Advocacy Operations for ArtPride, and I'm proud to introduce our friends from Americans for the Arts, Tooshar Swain, the Director of Public Policy, and Olivia Tarpley, Public Policy Manager. Today, Tooshar is just going to go over some of the federal landscape, including the Department of Government Efficiency and the Associated Caucus in the Congress, the appropriation process with the FY25 and 26 happening at the same time, and some of the things that they're keeping an eye on when it comes to the administration. And then Olivia is going to discuss actions you can take as an advocate and ways that folks can get involved and feel your voices being heard in both of the appropriations process. So take it away, Tooshar.
Great, thank you so much. Tooshar Swain with Americans for the Arts. I am a middle-aged Indian American male with a shaved head, brown skin. Today I am wearing a blue checkered shirt. Olivia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi folks, good morning. My name is Olivia Tarpley and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the public policy manager, like Vince said, at Americans for the Arts. I'm a white woman with dark brown hair wearing a cream colored sweater, and I'm seated in my office based in Washington, D.C. in front of a bookshelf with a couple large pieces of art on the wall behind me.
Thanks, Olivia. And just, a special thank you to Adam, Vince, and the rest of the team here at ArtPride New Jersey. They do great work, and we are thrilled to call them partners and friends. We're going to talk a little bit about the congressional landscape. There is a lot going on. We are going to focus mainly on appropriations and funding at the National Endowment for the Arts. But we also encourage you to join us next week. We're having a webinar where we're going to go drill a little bit deeper as we talk about not just the appropriations process, but also some of the other policy issues that we're advocating for, as well as talking a little bit about budget reconciliation and the tax side. and what we're advocating for there. But for the purposes of for today, we're talking about fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26 appropriations. The federal government, their fiscal year cycle is typically October 1st till September 30th. And so ideally, you would want Congress to finish their appropriations process by September 30th, so the government can move on with their funding for the following year. That rarely happens, particularly over the last 20 years. And the last two times, they have been working on parallel footing with two fiscal appropriations bills. So the 119th Congress began on January 3rd, and because of what's called a continuing resolution, that occurred on September 30th, and then another continuing resolution in December that punted fiscal year 25 appropriations to March 14th, 2025. That, you know, this is the scenario where we're at, where we are needing to monitor and begin advocating for both fiscal year 2025 and fiscal year 2026 appropriations. So you can see kind of where the process is going in yellow. For FY25, Chairman Tom Cole, he is the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, has literally publicly through the press been very adamant about letting the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, know that they need their top lines as soon as possible. These top lines are defense appropriations and then non-defense appropriations. We focus on the non-defense appropriation side for National Endowment for the Arts. And then what they do is with those non-defense top line numbers, they allocate specific numbers to 12 appropriations bills. And the one we are most concerned with is the Department of Interior appropriations bills, which houses the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. If Congress is not able to get their act together by March 14th, 2025, they have three options. One is to actually get their act together and pass fiscal year appropriations by March 14th. The second option would be another one of these continuing resolutions. Now they have to keep in mind that if they do a continuing resolution, that they need to have that continuing resolution to be considered before you can see there April 30th, 2025, because of an agreement that happened about a year and a half ago, where if you can't get your act together and get your fiscal appropriations done by April 30th, automatic cuts are made both to defense and non-defense spending. And so while we don't anticipate it going that far, there might need to be a continuing resolution because they are already a little bit behind. For our purposes, for FY25, we are asking Congress for $209 million. This is a $2 million increase from fiscal year 2024. This is what is in the Senate's bill. So the House has their own interior appropriations bill. The Senate has theirs. The House came in at around $203.5 million, which, relatively speaking to other programs in the Department of Interior bill, was a high number. But the Senate has come in with $209 million. And we think that that is an achievable number. I know that many have who follow what's going on in Washington, D.C., has heard about the new Department of Government Efficiency headed by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. The anticipation is that they really can't, won't be able to kind of get their hands around everything that is going on before this FY25 appropriations bill is passed. And so I think the thought is that the $209 million is achievable. Now, if you look at the right side, I think this is where it starts to kick in, and you start to hear about things like, the Doge and their recommendations. Now they don't have they do not have any official government standing. They can't make the cuts, they can only advise. Still, we see that, that both Mr. Ramaswamy and Musk do have a lot of pull with the president right now. So if you see on the right-hand side, after the inauguration of President Trump, I think you're going to start to see, potentially some concern with government cuts. Incidentally, the NEA has not been mentioned, though the president did in his first term zero out the National Endowment for the Arts funding, but because of great bipartisan support from Congress, we actually came out of the Trump years with increases in the National Endowment for the Arts. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Olivia to kind of explain, particularly with the FY26 process, just what are some things that constituents like yourselves can do to be involved in the process. Go ahead, Olivia.
Awesome, thanks, Tooshar. So as far as ways to advocate and get involved, when you're thinking about the FY25 piece, I think the best thing to do at this point is to be reaching out to your members of Congress and telling them that you really encourage them and want them to support the $209 million ask. And there are, of course, several ways you can do that. You can always call the office. You can also participate with either ArtPride New Jersey and/or Americans for the Arts through our different grassroots advocacy software programs and those make it easy for you to write to your members of Congress through those platforms. You can also just reach out via their websites. They make it pretty easy to get in touch. So certainly encourage folks to do that. And like Sam said at the very beginning of our time together this morning, they want to hear from you. So it's much better for you as constituents to be reaching out because, like we've talked about, you are the ones that are voting for them and they want to hear what you think. As far as FY26, as we're gearing up for that, we wanted to share a little bit about a way that you can share specific priorities with your members, and those are through their appropriation portals. So each member of Congress will open a portal that coincides with the appropriations cycle, and that's a way for you to share specific priorities with your members. Unfortunately, each member of Congress has a little bit of a different process. So some might accept different kinds of forms. Some might want you to write in with a Word document about the priorities. We at Americans for the Arts gather that information over the course of the appropriation cycle and then can share it out with folks so that you have access to the easiest way to submit an appropriations request to your member of Congress. They're not open yet because, like Tooshar was saying, we're trying to button up FY25 at the moment. But once those FY26 appropriation portals go live, we're, of course, going to be in touch with ArtPride and then also happy to be in touch with everyone else on the webinar to discuss the best way to share your priorities with your members of Congress. In addition, members can sign on to a Dear Colleague letter. These Dear Colleague letters go to the members of various of the appropriations committees, and they essentially are just voicing support for certain priorities and issues. So every year, a letter is circulated for the NEA as well as the NEH. So as constituents, you can encourage your members of Congress to sign on to these letters to that then, like I said, go to the appropriations committee and try to encourage them to include certain types of funding. And when these letters are circulated, we share different alerts so that folks know that now is a good time to be reaching out to your member and asking them to sign on. And again, they're more likely to sign on if they hear from a constituent or groups of constituents. So definitely keep that in mind as we get ready for FY26. And then we also certainly encourage everyone, as you're thinking about advocacy, to do exactly what you're doing today. So plug into your community networks at the local, state, and federal level and get involved with the advocacy that's happening. There are coalitions and networks across the country that work on arts and culture issues, and specifically within that NEA and NEH funding. So we're happy to be in touch with you on other ways to get involved, and we encourage you, of course, to be participating in the advocacy campaigns from ArtPride and Americans for the Arts. And then I also just wanted to share that Jim put in the chat for everyone our Americans for the Arts advocacy webinar, which is happening a week from today on January 22nd at 3 p.m. And we'll go into some of the things that Tooshar was talking about with the appropriations, as well as some of the other things we're looking at from the incoming administration. Additionally, we're going to share a link in the chat for a brief 4-question survey. And that survey is trying to help us better understand what people's policy and advocacy priorities are for the new Congress. And we would love to hear from you all about the things that are important to you, and that will help to shape our advocacy agenda. And with that, I think that I'm turning it back to Vince, and we're, I think, transitioning to Q&A.
Yes, thank you so much. There was just one question from our board member, Anita, and she asked, do you know who Trump is looking at to head the Department of Interior, or does this happen after the inauguration?
I can take that. That's a great question. We don't know as of yet. What we anticipate happening is that on January 20th, the current chair, Chair Jackson, will offer her resignation, and there will be an acting chair who will likely be somebody who is, currently at the NEA to provide that continuity, and then from there he will he will have the ability to nominate someone. We do know that folks who were instrumental in really helping and persevering during attempted budget cuts are playing significant roles on the transition team, such as his former chair, NEA chair, Marianne Carter. I don't think that we anticipate her taking the position again. I think that is something that we would love. She was fantastic during a very difficult time period, but we don't anticipate her taking it over. But again, you never know. There's a lot of unpredictability with the Trump administration. And then there's also, right, the president certainly, or the president-elect, soon to be president, does love star power. So we're not ruling out a star in the arts, but again, it's a lot of work, so I'm not sure if they would potentially want that, but those are things that we're looking at right now.
Thank you. And thank you again. I know this was a lot to digest, folks. So Olivia and Tooshar will be here for the rest of the webinar. So if you have other questions, you can put them in the chat. And someone's going to put in their emails as well, so you can reach out to them directly if you have more pointed questions that you want. So we're going to move on. And Vanessa and I are going to talk about some of the current action alerts that are up right now that you can take a part of, both on the state side and the federal side. Jim, if you can go to the next slide. First being obviously support for NEA and NEH. We obviously talked about the crucial need for it. And so, like Tooshar said, for the Senate version, we are asking for 209 million. And there is a action alert up right now, so you can go ahead and take part in that. Go ahead to the next slide, please. The next one is we're telling Congress to oppose Senate Bill 4136. This is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. It's to terminate tax exempt status for nonprofits deemed terrorist supporting organization. You may be familiar with this. There was a House bill called HR 9495, the Stop Terrorist Financing and Tax Penalties for American Hostage Act. This is the Senate version that possibly may come up. And so we really are concerned about this. This legislation inappropriately combines well-intended tax relief for Americans who are held hostage abroad with deeply destructive provisions that would allow the Treasury Secretary to designate nonprofits as terrorist supporting organizations and strip their nonprofit tax exempt status. And so we really are just trying to keep watch of this. We haven't heard any news yet, but it is likely to come up in the Senate. So we're asking folks to participate in the action alert to ask them to oppose the bill if it comes up in the Senate. Next, please. And I'm going to introduce Vanessa, who's going to go into some of the other action alerts that we have. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Good morning, everyone. I haven't had a chance to introduce myself yet, so I will do so now. I'm Vanessa Ramallo. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Director of External Relations at ArtPride, New Jersey. I am a mixed race woman with a long black braid. I have a dark blue background with some pretty artwork on the wall. I am wearing a black shirt and a black woven wrap around my shoulders and a multicolored beaded strands of stranded necklace around my neck. It's great to be here with you all today. The next action alert I'll be covering is the Live Theater Tax Credit Bill, S3503, and in the Assembly 4925. So the need for this tax credit bill was actually identified by partner Mike Stotts of our member organization Paper Mill Playhouse, and they've provided a lot of leadership in getting the ball rolling on this piece of legislation. It incentivizes for-profit production companies to partner with New Jersey nonprofit theaters to stage high-caliber live theater productions that have aspirations to move on to Broadway or to form national tours. So part of why this bill is important is really just to remain competitive in the live theater industry. So neighboring states across the East Coast, including Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New York, have already launched similar tax credit programs. And we're already seeing some of that business moving to those other states rather than choosing New Jersey to stage these kinds of productions. And so it's really about remaining competitive in the field to attract these top-tier, large-scale productions to our state so that we don't lose out on the business and the economic revenue that these productions have the potential to bring to our state. Some of the other key benefits of this tax credit will ultimately include job creation, revenue generation, investing in our communities here in New Jersey, boosting tourism, and also just sustaining our non-for-profit theater landscape. So there are some eligibility requirements to note. The types of nonprofit theaters that would be eligible to participate in this would be, presenting venues with a seat capacity of at least 350 seats. But even for, for organizations that may not necessarily qualify to be a part of this tax credit bill, it's really just important for us to stress the benefits of this type of bill for our state as a whole and for the theater sector as a whole. So we're really urging folks to participate in this action alert, send a letter to your legislator, ask for their support for this bill. You can also reach out to me directly to discuss this bill in more detail and other ways that you can support, including joining us in meetings as we are targeting legislators all throughout the state to get them to be aware of this bill, hopefully co-sponsor it, and also to vote for it if it comes out for a vote later on this year. And then we can move on to the next slide. And our next action alert is, really just about reaching out to the governor to maintain the arts and culture and history budget at the current level of $31.9 million. As Sam mentioned, the governor, we're so supportive of Governor Murphy's, we're so appreciative of Governor Murphy's support of the arts throughout his tenure, which, he's really demonstrated in enabling the passing of the highest budget for the arts, history, and culture in the state's history. And as Sam mentioned, between now and March, he's going to be working on his final budget proposal. And we really want to encourage him to just, really cement and honor his legacy as, being among the most pro arts governors that we've had in our state. And so, we're doing a lot of work to connect with the governor, to connect with leadership in the legislature, but we cannot do this advocacy work alone. The governor needs to hear from all of us in the sector. He also needs to hear from residents of New Jersey, from the constituents that, directly benefit from all the important work that this budget enables to be possible. So please participate in this action alert, send a letter to the governor expressing your support, and please share out this action alert as well. Share it out with your colleagues in the field, share it out in your organization's networks so that also community members and residents and patrons of the arts can also express their support to the governor and really hear from all of us how important it is for him to propose to maintain the budget at the current level. And we're just going to talk a little bit more about how you can support arts funding, just really continue to be a part of this advocacy work, not just, at key moments throughout the year, but ongoing throughout the year. And so, as we've been reiterating throughout this call, contacting your legislators and the governor is extremely important. They need to hear from you. And, it's important to really think about this as developing an ongoing, consistent relationship with these folks who are representing our interests. We really want to encourage you to be persistent, contact them as often as you can, not only, through the avenues of things like our action alerts, but shooting them an email, keeping them updated on the work that you're doing, inviting them to events. Think about ways that you can be creative in terms of really getting the attention of the legislators and also their staffers. We're creative organizations. We have artists of all kinds that are part of the work that we do. What are things that you maybe have created in your organization that can really create a connection between the work that you do and the communities that you serve and our legislators, right? Do you have a coloring book, that you've created that you can send them a copy of? Do you have, student artwork, that you can share with legislators so they can really see, how young people are benefiting from the work that you're doing. So be creative and be persistent. Keep reaching out, inviting them to come out to the work that you're creating. And also when they do show up, thank them and really show your appreciation. As many of us have said on this call, they really want to hear from you. They want to know what's going on. They want to know that, the impact that your work is having in their district. And it's really going to make a difference ultimately when, conversations around things like the budget are starting to happen. Utilizing ArtPride's action alerts. So, oh, I'm sorry, can you go back to that next slide? The last slide, thank you. So our action alerts, we gave you a run through of the current ones that we have. Keep in mind that our action alerts are always being updated. We're putting new ones up on the website all the time. Keep staying tuned into our emails because we'll share information about new action alerts or new calls to action that we might have. And we're also trying to grow our audience in terms of our text messaging, which is just a really easy way that you can get access to the most current action alerts and just right from your phone with a couple of simple clicks, be able to participate in them. So don't forget to sign up for text messaging. And please do share out the action alerts so that we can get as much traction on them as far and wide as possible. Organizing locally is just, something to always be keeping in mind. We can't afford to work in silos or to work in very individualistic kinds of manners. So talk to your neighbors, talk to local businesses that are around your organization if you aren't already. Find, the ways that you can build connections with one another, create opportunities for collaboration. All of those things are going to help not only strengthen us as a sector, but also as communities that can be working for each other's best interests. And as Sam said, really staying vigilant and informed, not just about what's going on in terms of arts issues, but the political landscape in general. So really keep an eye out on how things are moving in terms of the political landscape. We'll be providing ongoing resources around how you can continue to do that. So stay vigilant and informed, and also optimistic, and keep doing the good work. And then we can move on to the next slide. We actually have a poll that we just want to gain a little bit more information and context in terms of, what is your comfort level, your current comfort level in connecting with your legislators? I know for some people that may not be something that you have done a lot in the past. And for others, you may have really great relationships with your legislators, but we just kind of want to get a pulse on where you all are at with that, so we can also figure out how we might be able to offer support and fill some gaps as needed. So the poll is up now. What is your comfort level in connecting with your legislators? Please select one. If you already have a great relationship with your legislator, if you don't have relationships with a legislator, but you feel comfortable and confident to start building that, or if you don't feel comfortable or confident and you feel like you need support. So we'll just give a moment for y'all to fill that out. And Jim, whenever we have a critical mass of responses, you can feel free to end that poll. And just give another moment. Alrighty. And are we going to see the results of that poll, or should we move on to the next one, Jim? Okay, I guess we'll move on to the next poll. So we have another poll that we want to gauge some input on. Oh, okay, we do have the results of that. Okay. So here we have, I think it was about a third of you have great relationships with your legislators, and that's really awesome to hear. And then another 46% of folks don't currently have relationships, but you feel comfortable and confident to connect with them, which sounds great. And then we have about 18% who don't feel comfortable and feel like they need support. So this is really great information for us to have. Please know that no matter where you are in terms of your current connections with legislators and your current comfort level, please reach out to us and connect with us to be a part of the work that you're doing. And then let's do the next poll. And this is just, we're thinking about ways that we can provide additional support to you all. So please take a look at this poll. You can actually select more than one. Log your responses. And yeah, we're just interested in different ways that we might be able to try some different offerings and different kinds of support to you all. And this will be really helpful for us to figure some of that out.
Vanessa, while we're giving folks a excuse me, while we're giving folks a second here to answer, I wanted to say there's a question here about, does ArtPride have a composite list of contacts for all legislators, specifically email addresses that aren't lost in the void? So the short answer to that is yes. So we do invest in some software that is both the action alert software as well as a database that has legislators and elected officials and their staffs as a database that gets updated, and we have access to that. But those like Senator, Smith at, NJ Ledge email addresses are actually email addresses that are maintained and reviewed and read. And the phone numbers in the district offices that are on their websites are answered. They just get a lot of communication, and then frankly, we'll talk about what we've been, sort of hitting on all day today, which is they answer the folks first who they have relationships with, or who's seen the most urgent. So I think it is partially not just having that email address, but having that relationship as well. But if you're looking to get in touch with someone specifically, because this was an anonymous attendee that asked, or you're looking for the best person in so-and-so senator's office or assembly person's office, please reach out to us and we can certainly work to find that connection for you.
Awesome. And thank you so much for participating in that poll. We're going to take a look at your responses and hopefully have more updates for you later. I'm going to pass it off to Vince, who's actually going to give a little bit more info about Arts Advocacy Day coming up in March.
Yes, so Advocacy Day, we have a new date for this year. It is going to be March 26th. ArtPride staff, myself, Vanessa, Adam, and Sam Bender from PSI are going to travel down the day before. So if folks feel encouraged, they can. But the advocacy team, like always, is going to go down with a group of arts advocates, from admin staff to artists. And we're going to advocate for federal funding like we always do. This year, we're going to focus mainly on NEA and NEH. This seems to be the most important, but we may touch in a few other pieces of legislation. We haven't decided on that yet. And so if you're interested, I'm going to have Jim drop in the chat the link to sign up. This is just an interest form, but it also gives us an idea of what district you're from, where you're going to be placed in. And then just some information if you are a NEA or NEH recipient or any other grant throughout the state. So also, I just wanted to touch on a few things that you might be expecting when you get there. So first, ArtPride is going to arrange in-person meetings on Capitol Hill for all of the elected officials. And these are going to be based on your congressional district from where you vote, but it also may be from where you work. Sometimes people may want to advocate for their organization, but also want to advocate for the district that they live in. So it's helpful that you give us both pieces of information when you're filling out the form, just so we have an idea of where you stand. And then these advocates will be grouped, like I said, in their district. And a seasoned delegate from the past advocacy days will come and be with you, along with our ArtPride staff, to make sure that the whole experience runs smoothly, and you have the most impactful conversations with the staffers or the congressperson themselves. Prior to the event, ArtPride is going to provide a scheduled meeting with a schedule of meetings, along with some maps and some different information for you to know what to do when you get down there, along with a webinar that's going to, like we said, go over some of the talking points and some of the logistics so everyone feels comfortable on the trip. If you have any other information or any other questions, just let me know. And there's going to be some more information coming out in the next coming weeks as I put together some of the different emails and some of the requests that are going to go out for the meetings. So just keep an eye out, and I'll be sure to share information on the website, artpridenj.org/NJAAD, and in emails for requests, like I said, for people to join us. And you can go to the next slide, Jim. So what's to come? There is going to be some ways for folks to participate from home if they're unable to come to the trip. So Vanessa and I, with the work of Tanisha Ford, are going to put together a nice one-sheeter that's going to help folks have some ways that they can advocate and do some things while they're at home. We have office hours still open as well. I believe it's up on our website so that you can connect with Vanessa and I and get deeper into some of the questions that you have that are pertaining to your specific organization. And I'm actually going to pass it to Vanessa because we're going to do a little tag team for this slide.
Thanks, Vince. For those who aren't aware, we've established some office hours between Vince and I. And so this is just a way for us to just have kind of like an open door and really connect with you and talk with you about anything that's going on in your work that you feel like ArtPride needs to learn more about, or ways that we can, just work together to strengthen our own relationships and partnerships and move this work forward together in ways that feel valuable and relevant to you. Again, building relationships with your legislators. We really want to work together with you on that. So again, no matter where you are in that process, whether you have strong relationships already, you're wanting to build those, or you feel like you need support, we want to do that work alongside you. So if you're already having meetings with your legislators, consider, just let us know that you're doing that. And if we can join, we'll be happy to do that and support that conversation. If we are having meetings with legislators, which we're always like, making those requests, we'd love to invite you out so that you can, be a voice as a district constituent in those meetings so they can hear directly from you about what your work is doing in their district. So let's please work together, connect with us, reach out, and I know we'll do great work together on that. Did you want to talk a bit about really quick about the Mayor's Committee, Vince?
Yeah, so last year we were at the League of Municipalities and we will continue to participate, but we would really like to get more involved and have you more involved. And one of the ways is we're trying to find out if mayors are connected, and we want to know if you like we're saying before, have a great relationship with your mayor. So Vanessa and I are going to look for ways to ramp up this mayor's committee. We're going to look to try to do some engagement in the next coming year with some type of webinar or panel discussion so that folks can get some information on the mayor's side, and then also we can get you connected and make sure that you have this relationship that we're trying to build with folks. Do you want to talk about educational opportunities?
Yeah, so we just want to offer, just more resources around advocacy to our members and your communities. So we're really thinking about different kinds of content that we can create that can be informational and educational, that you can be accessing on your own time, but also really thinking about how we can come out to you and provide different kinds of educational opportunities. And we'd love to work with you to think about what that could look like, whether we come out and do a little talk, a little workshop, or something even more one-on-one and customized and personal. So just know that those opportunities are here and available. Reach out to us and we'd love to talk more about what you need and how we can support you to be the best advocate that you can be. ArtPride, we're also just really out and about. We are all between Vince, Adam and I, we've been attending conferences, we've been on panel discussions, doing speaking, and really just trying to build relationships throughout the sector and also cross sector, and really being at as many tables as possible to spread the message about the importance of the arts as far and wide as possible. And so people in all sectors and in all spaces in areas of the state know how important it is, the work that you're doing. So, if you hear about any different opportunities to do that kind of work, if there's a conference you hear about, if you're organizing something, if you're organizing a gathering and you feel like, we can bring some value to that space, please reach out. We're really eager to just be out there in the world with you and spreading this message. And again, really ensuring that all people at every level all throughout the state are supportive of the arts and understand the value that our sector brings to the state. And then for the last point, the candidate survey, which we mentioned already.
Yeah, so like we do always, ArtPride will do a candidate survey for the gubernatorial race. And we'll likely come, like Adam and Sam were saying, once the pool gets a little smaller and we whittle down to some actual like firm candidates. So once we have an idea of who really is going to be in the race, Vanessa, myself, and Adam will put together some questions, and we can also source some questions from you about the arts issues and current things that are going on to make sure that everyone is getting the best possible answers from these folks. So that will definitely be coming in the next coming months. Next, please.
Ooh, and we have one more poll. I know we're running just a couple minutes over. Please bear with us. But again, we're really thinking about ways that we can be improving and expanding our work. So, and we really want that work to be informed by what you are interested in. So this is our last poll. If you could just take a moment to complete that. And I believe you can choose multiple options for this as well. Thank you so much for those who can stay on a couple minutes longer. For those who can't, we understand, and we're so happy you joined us today. And we'll also be sending out a recording of the webinar as well in case you missed the last couple minutes. And
I think we can close out.
while we're doing that, we can actually move to the next slide because we're about to wrap up. And, we just wanted to leave you some words of inspiration. Like, we've covered a whole lot of content. I know y'all did not get a chance to really digest everything. And we know there's a lot going on in the political landscape in terms of funding and, and then you're still trying to do the good work that you're doing. So we really just want to, give you some inspiration and really remind you, that there's so many different ways that you can be involved, so many different ways you can participate. And every little small thing that you do really matters and makes a difference. So keep that in mind. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to do all the big things, but even one thing that you can do consistently is going to matter, right? And then, remembering the lessons of, what happened with the budget in FY25, when we came together and, really made a statement and, showed our legislators how important, state funding is for us. We came together and really made a big impact. And so, keep remembering that, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much, and really think about the strength that we have as a sector, our strength in our communities, and know that, no matter what's to come, we are equipped and ready to handle it. And we're looking forward to continuing to work with you all to make big things happen for our sector and ultimately for the communities that we serve.
Yes, thank you so much for those words. As always, feel free to reach out to Vanessa or me if you have any questions. And like Adam said, this is going to be up probably, if not today, later this week. So folks can go back and kind of reference and pause and restart and kind of get all of the juicy information that was given to us by both Sam, Tooshar, and Olivia. So thank you so much from everyone. Adam?
I was just going to come on and thank the two of you for leading all these efforts, and thank our volunteer group as well, Carol Kronheim and Sharon Harrington, co-chairs of our government strategy committee, and all the folks on that government strategy committee. Just to say thank you, and we'll be in touch with everyone. Appreciate everyone. Take care, and we'll talk soon.